I ain't seen it. Let's go this way. Yeah. Got another power jack down there? We got one in the basement. We can go get it. We have to. Oh, Mike, give him an order now. Hey, you gotta get it, man. You know, he. You know. So, you know, you gotta give him a little. You get a fast.
Just hop on 65 North and take that to 71. Watch out for the deer and especially the troopers. Once you're on I-75, you're almost home. Those are the exact directions that my stepdad gave me the first time I drove home from college. Regrettably, I hardly make that trip these days, but I always make sure to visit for my Gram's birthday. I asked her what she wanted as a gift this year. Her response? Clean water. This is my neighborhood. We call it Merle Hood after my old elementary school. It's closed now, just like my high school. Welcome to the north side of Flint, Michigan, USA. Today I'm spending time with my Uncle Pastor T. His church, St. Mark, is one of the few water distribution sites in the city receiving federal assistance. Before I journeyed to interview some friends and family affected by the water crisis, he wanted to take me by the house and show me what has changed in the last 10 years since I moved. Somebody shot the back window out. Just like that, huh? And the craziest part is, this was a neighborhood.
Somebody shot my bedroom.
When they do that? Just cuz?
Just because it was just shooting.
That was my old bedroom window. Alright, here I come.
This is mama's bedroom right here. And mama had got the house redone after somebody had shot it. Then they turned around and shot again. And my cousin Ernie had to fill a hole up. It was shot, he had to fill a hole up right there.
And that's the bathroom.
Up.
So you could be sitting on the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
And get blasted.
Get blasted.
The bedroom, bathroom, and living room. Y'all just had to move from over here.
Just got too bad, you know. There was a house across the street where that empty lot is right there, where that garage is.
Yep.
And the house was the same color as our house, and our house got shot up. And that house that was there, they ended up burning it down.
So that was the story. And that's the bullet hole. Somebody shot a hole in the wall. You can't see it anymore because it's been patched up, but it was about right there. The bullet came through the front window, and the crazy thing is, that's where we used to play basketball all the time. I'll never forget, I got a call from my mom saying that there was a drive-by and someone shot up the house. She said I didn't need to come home from school and Grams was okay. But the crazy thing is, if she would have been home, that's where she used to sit all the time. It's my old bedroom. Just crazy being up here. The Flintstones. It's my brother's wall. Music. When I found out I was going to college, I put a little countdown up there. So it was Flyy senior countdown, still up there. I used to have a Tennessee quarter taped up here. But yeah, I was ready to go. Countdown. I was going to college. So this was August 2005. It's crazy. So over 10 years ago, man. You just remember when this was a thriving neighborhood where every house...
With thriving neighborhood with every house, GM, everybody had GM jobs, and it was a beautiful neighborhood. It was somewhere where you could play, somewhere where you can ride your bike up and down the street. Everybody was having a good time.
I came to Flint, Michigan because at that time,
GM was booming, and there was a lot of employment.
It's been a fascinating town to me. I brought my wife here right after we got married. I'm originally from the west side of the state. Grew up in a rural area, small town, and but as I got married, my wife and I looked at a number of different factors, and we were really interested in a lot of what Flint had to offer. The diversity of it, the urban nature of it, the growth of it.
It was a booming city. 40s and 50s making tanks for the military, and Buick rolling through, Ford coming through, GM. I mean, it was Hollywood.
This was the place to be, the place of what was happening in the employment world.
I became a teacher because I didn't like teachers. That's one of the reasons why I ended up in Flint, because I thought this would be a place that would really allow me to begin to start the change that I was looking for. I've learned in the last couple of years that I thought all along I was coming to Flint to do Flint a favor, and found out that Flint was just really preparing me to go out and do the work now that I really need to do.
When I grew up through the 80s and the 90s, Flint was a great place to be. It wasn't, you didn't see a bunch of abandoned houses, you know. You had a little bit of crime. I think every city got crime, but it wasn't like it is now, where it was the main thing going. A lot of people had jobs, you know, the school system full.
I wouldn't call it the thriving city at the time I came. It was just at the beginning of its decline. I'd heard stories about when Flint schools were the model for the world, really. It used to be that people from all over the world would come through and visit Flint schools. We were the first to really begin what's called the community school system. The school that we're at here, Flint Central, was open almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There were programs for people who worked in the factory. Like if you worked a second shift, a lot of times they'd do basketball games in the gym for those guys when they got off of work at midnight. Programs for people who worked third shift for their kids so that they would have daycare for their kids. I met a guy from Israel one time who had come here as an educator to learn about our system. So those were the days, I think, when Flint was really in its golden era. All the factories in town were running 3 shifts. People, you know, had wonderful incomes.
Then they pulled out. Why? I don't know. They wanted to build more plants. I don't know why, but that left a whole bunch of people without jobs, and you gotta eat by any means necessary.
First they took the jobs. After they took the jobs, and there was no economical opportunity, you know, you got drugs and crime running rampant, and then you close the schools. So no education. So what we got is no financial opportunity to better ourselves. We got no education because all the schools is closed with our kids. That leaves you with a poverty-stricken, high crime rate city, you know, to live in. It don't make it a safe place to live. It don't make it a place where people want to be.
As General Motors starts to cut back its workforce, as plants begin to cut back in shifts and then just begin to cut back altogether, when you started to see the plant closings and so on. So obviously the employment issue, I think, really drove the decline of Flint.
So many businesses have gone away from Flint, and the younger people feel like they cannot find a suitable job to do, and they are wanting to leave, and some of them that don't really have the initiative to leave, they are considering robbery, whatever they can do to get money to do what they want to do.
By any means. I mean, you do what you do. You do what you have to do to survive. Kick, bite, scratch, I don't care. You know, you're either gonna serve this rock, or you're gonna serve this soft, or you're gonna break into this corner store for a $100 meal. Feed your family. What can you do?
They don't want to take a low-paying job. They feel like, I have gone to college for so many years, I don't want to do this. But a lot of times you need to start where the employment is and maybe work your way up.
instead of just living in the street.
3 out of the 4 main high schools is closed now in Flint. And I think that's a big part of people trying to move to make more money, so the population is down. And that's because they took a lot of things out of Flint that was helping us as a community. So when people wanted a better life, they had to leave to find it.
We're closing down elementary schools left and right. My elementary school's closed down, Coolidge. They closed Central. They closed Whittier. They closed a whole bunch of different schools.
As the schools started to close, and obviously also as jobs started to go away, then people are leaving the city like crazy. And it's one of the issues that the school district has had to face, is they never closed down schools in an appropriate manner. Because there was always, some people left in a neighborhood and they would scream and yell. Nobody wants their school to be the one that gets closed. So we ran at a huge deficit for a long time. Little things added to that, like the building of Genesee Valley Mall took a lot of business out of downtown Flint. You start to lose central traffic in the downtown area, you start to lose a sense of community and things like that. Because downtowns in America have always been the heartblood of any community. As people got wealthier, the desire in America at that time was always to move out of the city. You had that drain on the population constantly. It became this thing, nobody wanted to live in Flint. So those houses went empty, and a lot of times people weren't coming in because now there's no new jobs, so there's nobody coming in to take those houses.
The first time I really noticed it was really violent is when I had been to St. Mark for a mission meeting on one Wednesday, and as I was getting out of my car, going in the house, collecting my items, my Bible, and I had my daughter, this young man came up and said, "Excuse me, do you have a light?" No, I don't have a light. And he said, "For not having a light, I'm taking your purse." And he just took my purse and he just ran, and I was screaming. I wasn't screaming at him, I was screaming so some of my neighbors might hear me and call the police. But that was a traumatic time for my daughter. She has really had a fear of the neighborhood where I live. And since then, she has moved away, but it's a lot of crime still in Flint, no matter where you go. Some areas are a little bit better, but where I live is referred to as the hood. And a lot of the young people, like my daughter, they don't want to live there. They feel like it's better if they move out to Grand Blanc or Mount Morris. So they have really gone away out of the neighborhood where they live their young lives.
Really, if you pay attention, they've been rerouting people ever since they started routing them up here for General Motors anyway.
It's a lot of people in Dallas that went down there for GM.
There's a lot of people from Michigan, period, in Dallas, Houston, and and Arizona.
They coming from Flint.
Yeah. I remember most of the people in Mississippi, they moved here for General Motors. First they started rerouting to Atlanta. Now they rerouting everybody to Texas. And everybody thinking Texas is a place to go. And half these brothers don't know. Down there, the independent state, you brothers ain't gonna go down there and cause no problems. They got a few penitentiaries down there like that. Two white people name on that paper, and that's Granholm and Snyder. It started with her and it ended with him.
She knew what was going on.
Yeah, that's why she got out of sight. And they done pacified us. They done pacified us so much. We got people sitting there with 100 cases of water in their house. You hear a whole bunch of people bragging about the water no more.
My uncle explained how he has teamed up with local pastors to request emergency federal funding from the governor. If activated, the rainy day fund of over $400 million would assist the residents of Flint with tackling the water crisis.
Try to get the rainy day fund. They've been rejected. They said it has to be called a disaster. And I think this is a disaster. So it's been deemed a state of emergency.
It's been made a man-made disaster versus a disaster.
Right.
This ain't
It's a
real
state of
catastrophe
emergency,
to them.
but this is a man-made disaster.
It's just a catastrophe. Something just really bad happened.
It's not an act of God.
90% of the damn
See what I'm saying?
they ain't got water.
It's not an act of God like, you know, a tornado or something or a hurricane.
So because it's not natural, then they not considered a disaster.
No.
Alright. Come on with it. Oh, you Seattle Seahawks? Rusty Wilson. NFC Bampians.
Marshawn, I need the bench. You pulling that thing with one hand and it got two handles?
Hello, Mike, he just here so he don't get fined.
Yeah, you just here so you won't get fined.
Whatever y'all want to call it, that's what I'm here for.
Come on, bro, let's go. We waiting on you. You have not accumulated enough time to be taking time off.
It's all right. And none of their teams win neither.
Let's go. Watch out, Greg. Swing it way.
These men are volunteers from the church. They ensure that the citizens of Flint have access to fresh water by taking out the time to unload several trucks for my uncle.
One more coming down here? Oh. Mike, go get this out. Keep bringing.
When they stop giving that water and them cases get low, and that Band-Aid come on.
All right, y'all have a good one.
See you later.
What? Like, man, my water still. No, you was good when they was giving you bring cases to your door.
If I'm not mistaken, they just rejected some
Yeah, they about done giving out water, man. They gonna quit giving out water. Like, okay, how long y'all think we gonna give y'all free water? How long do you really think this is gonna take? No, they ain't gonna give out water until they finally dig up all of the pipes and change all the pipes. No, they gonna quit giving water soon.
But see, that was my whole point. I got another building to put the water in, because I knew FEMA was gonna be out of here. And when FEMA get out of here, we on our own.
Low key, FEMA got their cut. FEMA always get their cut when they run off to do anything. I don't care if it's to save a puppy in the well. They get their cut.
And sent us some water that they had back.
Already been had. They've been sending to Africa. You know what I'm saying? Y'all said that's old bottled water. Why y'all playing? This ain't fresh bottled water. Y'all said that's old bottled water.
So what was
But it's okay, because it's better than what's coming through the pipes.
How long is FEMA supposed to be here? FEMA gone in 4 days.
Won't be no pulling up at no places unless it's our own community churches. Unless it's our own community churches, you be able to pull up at a church and be able to get a couple cases of water. Other than that, them people with them semis sitting around, all that, no, they finna be done. They feel like they done put a Band-Aid on it long enough.
the water crisis started, we had been taken over by a general manager because of financial issues in the city.
They came up with this idea to have emergency managers, and the emergency managers came into our city as well as Benton Harbor and in other cities down the I-75 corridor. They will call them middle-class poor neighborhoods or communities. They are non-elected officials. They are appointed officials that Governor Snyder appointed. So ever since then, we've been having some problems.
We'd had a couple of or emergency managers come in, and those are individuals that are placed by the governor. They usurp all the constitutional power that the city has, so our elected officials no longer had any say about anything that was happening in the city.
Our city could not afford Detroit water anymore. The water was coming from Detroit. The pipeline was too much. We started off back when GM was booming. GM was allowing toxic waste to go into the Flint River, which poisoned the Flint River. We as a city had enough money to do that type of thing. We didn't care. We just used Detroit water.
And one of the ways that Darnell Early believed that he could save money was to switch from paying for Detroit water that had always come to Flint, which is some of the purest water in the world because it's filtered naturally through the salt mines that lie underneath the city of Detroit. He switched away from that to water coming in from the Flint River without any kind of research or background checks on anything.
Michigan actually signed in 2014 a deal with the committee for this pipeline, and at that moment Detroit was like, okay, well, you guys have a year left on the contract before we pull out water. Now Flint, Michigan had a whole year to warn its residents, to prepare the residents, because we had to be independently out of the Flint River for 2 years until the pipeline was finished.
This crisis occurred 2 years ago, and we were made aware of it in September. Our letting the city and the world know about it. It occurred in September. What they want us to believe, but it happened over 2 years ago.
Did the government even warn the people before they switched over to water? Did they say anything to the people? Did they tell them, like, you know, we're gonna test it?
You know what?
They warned the people. They said, okay, don't drink the water, and then a while later they sent out information saying the water is safe to drink now. Some of the people went back to drinking the water. Most of the people didn't, because they had lost the faith and trust in the Flint water, and they continued to purchase bottled water.
Back in 2014, something had came out about a boiled water advisory, and then didn't nobody really understand it, and it kind of came and went. That was the first time in a while that something had been said about the water, and nobody really paid attention to it.
Would they think that all of a sudden that the Flint River was miraculously clean and it was going to get us by for 2 years?
So you basically saying that the government, the city, they didn't even warn the people about the water?
Not at all.
Not at all.
I don't think it was important.
I think the reason it happened is because if you don't have to really live there, you don't have to really drink the water, the people that are in control, in charge of these things, they don't care as much. And sometimes they just didn't want to focus on what needed to be done at that time. Oh, it cost a little bit more money to do this, but in the longer run, taking care of the problem while it's small is better than letting it just get out of hand.
Snyder, Dane Wallen, you've seen Dane Wallen resigned. He resigned, we got a new mayor. As soon as this crisis broke out, he's done. He was out. He knew. Snyder knew, his whole team knew. But the residents. It's sad. It really is.
It turns out that it saved us about $100 a day. That was the massive savings that Mr. Early got for making his switch over.
$100 a day. They said it would have been $4 million, but I don't think you can put a price on somebody's life, regardless of the population of the city or the crime rate. It's still people.
He saved $5 million with this water crisis, with what he was trying to do. What that was, we don't know. But $5 million isn't worth the loss of life.
Because they didn't do any research, they didn't drop a very simple chemical into the water which would have stopped the lead leaching that eventually becomes this Flint water crisis. The thing that comes up along with that that makes this the true tragedy that it is for the country is that people from the EPA knew that there was lead in Flint's water. Long before the researchers from the University of Virginia came in, there was documentation that the water was poisoned. And there's now documentation that the governor knew that the state Environmental Protection Agency knew that, and did nothing about it.
They didn't let the people know about the water because it didn't fit into their agenda. The little bit of money that they saved to switch the water over, and I've never heard of Flint ever using the river water. It just didn't make no sense.
One of the great illustrators of how bad it was is General Motors finally said, we won't use Flint water because it's corroding our cars. And yet it was still okay. The city officials, Darnell Early, the state officials were saying, but you're okay to drink it. So if it's gonna rust a car, I'm thinking I'm a little less sturdy than a piece of metal might be. And so that really should have been a clue to somebody.
These kids affected have a 30% chance of growing up with some type of cancer, some type of mental disability.
My grandson DJ had lead in his body way before they started talking about the water. He lived in the hood where I live now, and we don't know if that came from the water, but at the time when he went to the doctor, they said it wasn't enough to really be concerned about. But that was a couple of years. He lived where I live. So by the problem just now really coming out, but it was a problem years ago, it could have affected him.
A few years ago?
A few years ago. But I think there's a certain percentage of how much that they consider is a factor for the damage that it can cause.
That's just crazy.
He had lead in his body back then, but we didn't attribute to the fact that it was the Flint water.
There's a young lady in our church who has a son. He's epileptic. He has had seizures, but since they have found high levels of lead in his system, he has been having over 100 seizures a day, and they keep him highly medicated.
My son is a kindergartner. The first 4 years of his life, we lived on the east side of Flint, which is one of the east and the north end was one of the most highly affected areas. His school teachers last year brought to me and Amanda's attention that they may think he might have mild autism. We don't know for sure if it's genetic. We don't know if it could be a result of the water, because if you do the research as far as high lead levels, it could lead to possible autism. So currently waiting on the results of that. I sure hope it's not any of that at all. I would rather it be genetic more than Snyder poisoning the city. That would leave a very bad taste in my mouth.
We had children in the city of Flint with rising lead levels, an incredibly horrible carcinogen that affects not just your current system of health, but can affect you on a genetic level, so that you're going to pass these problems on to your children. I mean, it's just heinous what they've done to the citizens of Flint.
My son and myself, we have went and got some blood work done because they advised the residents that for when the crisis broke out, that 10 years before, to make sure that we go get tested just to check our lead levels. I haven't got the results back from me or my son. There was a guy at work, his name is Joe. He said that his kids have patches in his hair. You know, that's what he says. But personally, I have not seen it. I have no reason to not believe the man.
Some of the seniors in our congregation too with respiratory problems because of the Legionnaire's disease or Legionella. Most of them believe that they had gotten it from taking a shower and the mist coming from the shower. It has affected us in many ways in our city, especially our restaurants. Many of our restaurants are closed, or many of our restaurants, people just, you know, won't take any chances. So it has made our land a desolate land.
That affects every aspect of daily living. I mean, I think twice about going to a restaurant and getting ice in my drink because I don't know if it's lead in that ice.
GM pulled out. We're closing schools. We got a water crisis. What, they want Flint to die?
Have they already started fixing any pipes?
It's places in the city that they can start digging.
2 places.
But no, it's a little more than 2 places, Pastor T. It's a few different places, but the significant neighborhoods where it's a lot of young black people and kids. Yeah, it's like the poorer the neighborhood, the lower on the list you're gonna be.
And that's the highest amount of lead, though. I got a map in my pocket right now, yeah.
Is that a surprise? I mean, we've been keeping that side of town down for years. You know, that's where all the violence come from. That's technically, which I find shameful, that the media will actually call the north side of Flint the third world.
They've started to repair some of the pipes here in the city, replacing the lead and copper pipes. My concern around that is to make sure that Flint people are employed to take care of that. That it's not somebody from outside the community. It's certainly not somebody that the governor supports.
Some blocks you only got 4 houses on the whole block. That'd be the last block they come through. Houses with 3 and 4 houses on the block. They better hope they don't forget about them and come change the pipes. I'm just being real. If it's 3 or 4 houses on your street now, you might not be considered a block no more.
Right now, they have begun working on the pipes, the changing the pipes and everything, so the water that will come through the pipes will be safe for us to use again. But that's going to be a long process, and we have lost faith in Flint water. We lost the faith in Flint water, and when it's fixed, it's going to take us a long time to really say, I'm going to drink this water out the faucet. I'm not going to drink no water out the faucet because I don't know, they might not have really cleared up the problem. It's going to take a long time for this problem to be solved.
My other fear is that the nation and the world will think once we replace the pipes that everything's taken care of. And that's not the end of this crisis because, like I said, this health problem is an ongoing, lifelong situation. And these kids, these families need to be taken care of well beyond the time the cameras leave town. Yes, you've got to get the pipes fixed, but you need to take care of the people. You need to take care of the culture of this city. One of the suggestions I made to our state representatives is that the state government should be putting money back into our school system. Forgive the debt that we have in the school system and let us rebuild our schools so that we can educate our kids in the best possible way to take care of themselves after this crisis.
It's going to take generations. And like, I think I have been affected. I can't say if I've been affected by the water. I am seeing doctors for some of the problems I'm having. And it'll be a while before I really know if the problems stem from the water.
People in positions of power didn't care. There's Governor Snyder's all over the country in different offices and in corporate America with the same agenda. I think that's why the whole country in the state that it's in now.
And there's that concerted effort to take away any kind of acknowledgement, a lot of it because of race. I mean, that's what leads us to our Flint water crisis. Everybody said, well, it's just Flint. Well, the reason people in power say that is because we're a predominantly African-American community. And so people have that mindset that, oh, that's not as important. It's not really a crisis. That mentality has been here a long time. I think that's why General Motors didn't have any problem pulling out. Because by the time they began to really slow down production. About 80% of the workforce in the city of Flint was African American. So it's those people losing their job instead of these are human beings who have families like everybody else that are losing their job.
I've seen the fact that it's going to take $60 million in 15 years to completely redo Flint's pipeline system. We're talking every house. We're talking from the water plant to every house, everything.
It's killing them right now to have to spend that money that they know they got to fix the pipes in the city. Oh, it's killing them to spend that money.
That is your fault. If you own a house and you ain't changed your pipe,
I'm talking to somebody from out of town.
it's your fault.
Now, mark my words, it's gonna come down to that too. It's gonna be an argument with the land, with everybody who ain't paying rent and got a landlord. When it come down to change the pipes in the house, the landlord gonna be sick because he gonna be responsible for that.
If somebody in the house owned the house before we would, whatever.
So you
family members, it should have been changed, bro.
You saying that's maintenance done on the person who there?
Right.
Right.
Especially if you own it. You can't expect the city to fix something that you own.
The problem actually started from the street.
Yeah, but that's
It was from the street to the house.
If you think about how old the metal pipes is and how long they've been in the house, it could have been the land problem started way because we found out the city had messed up.
My father, he still lives in Flint, but when we had a house fire, he put in a water filtration system. So fortunately, that was a wise decision because he can use the water. It straight goes through 2 different cleaning cycles before it actually comes out the tap.
Did he ever like just touch it just to make sure?
Yeah, he got it tapped. His levels are perfectly normal. No lead whatsoever in his water.
My landlord been changed to PCV. He been changed to you know. So my lead level in my house might not be as high as some other houses because I got all plastic piping all through the house. And he told me when I first moved here, he did that to keep people from coming in thinking they was finna steal
Taking the copper pipes,
yeah,
copper
so
wire.
He replaced all of it.
Yeah.
So my lead level might not be as high as other people that stay around here in this area because the pipes already been changed to plastic pipes. But it still don't stop it coming from the street. They gonna pay these people, what, $10 an hour to come here and pass our water?
No, they didn't. That's what I got upset about.
They didn't pay them out of town? I thought them out of town folks was getting paid.
They paid them about a month
They
ago.
paid the troops $2 million. $2 million. I was upset with that, man, because we should be able to heal ourselves. You know.
Yeah, versus you giving somebody else $2 million.
Yeah.
Split that $2 million up with the churches that got people actually passing out water. Or not even the churches, well, whoever volunteered. If you had a barbershop volunteered to pass out water, let them get a portion of that money too.
14 semis in 3 days, man, they be working hard.
Well, it's a volunteer thing. Started off as a volunteer thing. Politicians decided that they were going to send money here, but they decided to give the money that's being sent to do this to the National Guard, who are getting paid anyway. So basically, the National Guard are getting paid twice to do what we're doing, and we're doing it twice as hard as them. We don't have a pallet staff, we don't have a high-low, and so we had to get brothers like this to come out and donate their time to do what has to be done. It's about love, so we doing what we love to do. I mean, I ain't gonna say we love to work, but we love to help people.
Especially working for free.
This way we can help supply the city with the water they need. We can't afford to pay the brothers, but we can give them lunch and tell them thank you and God bless you. Some people that's sustainable, but it's not gonna put no food on the table.
They don't believe I was working, tell them rewind the tape.
We got quite a few guys out here that need jobs, looking for jobs, and they never secure jobs, and if we can get them a job doing this, then that's a great thing. It started off as a labor of love, and it's still a labor of love, but we can get blessed by some jobs, then that's even better. The National Guard are already receiving a check. They set aside $2 million that they're going to use in additional money to pay them beside what they're already getting. They're supplying them with all of the equipment. They've got high-lows, they've got pallet dollies, and all the other stuff that they need to make their job easier.
Just one way, God bless you. You know, meet new people, put in a little work, you know, contribute to the community. But without us, it wouldn't get done.
Where you help back, Corey?
They're moving in the street. y'all come help me with this one real quick.
Yeah, you gotta put your back into it. Watch your ankles. Here you go.
Come on, man. Carry on. Come on.
We had a revival today here at our church, noonday revival with the Great Lakes District Baptist Association. And we had your breakfast, but at the same time we couldn't shut down our water situation because people still in need. So we did it all. The Eastern Michigan Food Bank of Flint brings water to the church that comes from around America. And right now they're putting it to people because we got the truck that's backing it up. This is Brother Eric Lawson. He's been around here a long time, a very long time. You know, this big boss with the sauce, he's been around a long time. Very.
Yeah, I've known the pastor since he was a little boy.
Right.
I knew your mother when she was a little girl.
Yeah. He's our coordinator for the water drive, and I think this is who? The state of Michigan?
Yes, this is the state of Michigan.
State of Michigan. And, you know, he got all these people together. These people love what they do. You know, it's a blessing. We were told by FEMA to give 1 to 2 cases per car, but if we see a family of 8 or 5, we give them what they want. And right now we are full of ice mountain gallons, purified water, and we're blessed. We are blessed. And sometimes we have some produce, so we can give out food as well to combat this lead poisoning. They tell us that calcium, milk, and vegetables will help us in this situation. That was a man-made emergency. The prayers of the saints, prayers of the ain'ts, prayers of all the United States of America.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Okay, fellas, hold up. Let's grab these real quick. Because we are getting uneven for some reason. There we go. Back on track. Like a Cadillac. That's the wrong way. Come on, angle. Give it to me in the angle. Give it to me in the angle. There we go.
Last one, fellas.
It's a full-time job. It's all good though. Like I say, you know, we do it for free, but God gonna bless us. And you can't put no monetary value on blessings. Huh?
I said you're so right.
Can't put no monetary value on it.
Yeah, that's in case of water ain't no joke.
If it comes loose, not on the pallet where you can get the pallet jack back.
Well, you gotta do it 1 by 1, 2 by 2.
Man, they do a
You got to put some elbow in it.
And nobody getting paid for that.
Nobody getting paid.
But the troops.
But the government
the National Guard.
and the National Guard.
My uncle was able to secure funds to feed the hard workers for the day. Despite the cold weather and backbreaking labor, the volunteers keep the jokes coming with genuine smiles on their faces. Currently, I live and work in Atlanta, Georgia. After coming across a water drive from my hometown on Instagram, I grabbed my camera to see what motivated these good Samaritans to donate their time and energy to help with the water crisis.
I own a truck company. I got about 5 trucks, and I bought 2 of them for this project. Fill the truck for Flint.
Fill the truck for Flint. Yep.
It'll pull right up. Y'all on Instagram? We have an Instagram page that everybody just follows, and we just post a date. Whoever wants to come and donate water, we're available. I got 2 trucks. I got one parked on the side in case this one gets filled up. And if anybody wants to like donate, it's a link on the page as well to help us out. I have drivers that drive normally my trucks, and we always take one weekend out the month to do this.
This whole total experience, it's a good thing. It's not so much the humanitarian, it's just everyone's coming together to try to help people who are in need. I think more people should definitely donate time, donate resources if they have them, for worthy causes. And this is one that's definitely a worthy cause.
Okay, throw in the water. They do this on an everyday basis.
For a good cause. Work out for a cause.
Yep.
I'm here today to help support. We have a travesty going on right now with the water condition, and we're here in Atlanta, Georgia, and what we're doing is we are rallying water from different sources to send to the people of Flint, Michigan.
It's an idea that we came up with in 36 hours after we said, yeah, let's do it. Alex brought a truck out. We said, hey, can y'all bring us cases? And we ended up filling 2 trucks the first go around. Just wanted to be a part of the cause and help, you know, help the citizens of Flint. It wasn't really a whole, well, you know, we have family there or we know anything. We just knew what was going on, and Alex had the resources.
One of my drivers, Dwayne, right here, in the black shirt right there, he's from Michigan.
I'm from Detroit, Michigan. Born and raised, but I live here.
What brought you down here?
Employment, opportunity. This Atlanta. The economy got bad up in Michigan. I mean, I could have drove a truck up there, but you know, it's too depressing. So there's much more opportunity here. It's the capital of the South.
It's a lot of us down here too.
Yes, ma'am. Me and my wife, we was just up there last month, and you know, Flint is really took a hit. I mean, it's sad. You know, I mean, the auto industry. I used to haul auto parts, so I know about Flint, Saginaw, Pontiac. All that's auto industry territory. Flint is more. It's a shell. It's more of a. The sad part about Flint is they used to hustle and bustle and the boom. I mean, everybody had jobs. I mean, the plant was the source of Flint. Everything just dissipated. It's a ghost town. Now the water thing, that's criminal. That's absolutely criminal. There's no doubt about it. Somebody's going to pay, you know, because that is ungodly. Not to have no water, nah. That's essential to life. You can't have life without water, right? We did this last month. I drove this truck, me and my wife, and we passed out water up in Flint, and the people were very grateful.
And believe it or not, it's a line of cars 2 miles back every day on this block. And last month, we were parked right there. Cars were just pulling up back to back. We were just filling up their truck, filling up their cars. So we going right back to that same spot. We didn't want to do the wreck costs and all that. We wanted to get it directly to the people. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, and it's crazy because even after we fill up 2 trucks, it's not enough. But it's something. You know what I mean? And we're just hoping that we spread awareness and get other people to follow, you know what I'm saying, our lead. It's
very rewarding. And the brother that owns the trucking company, Alex Burton, all this is his brainchild.
This for your city, Dwayne?
Yes, sir. He donated the trucks. You know, he's not getting a dime. He's footing the bill, the fuel, you know, paying the drivers, the help, you know. So all this is charity from the heart. All credit goes to Alex Burton. You know, he's a good man. I'm here just to give back. It's a charity thing. It's about giving. You know, it's not about a paycheck, not about a salary. I'm here with my main man right here. He giving me a hand. See, this is memories for him. You know, he can say, hey, I helped put some water, sent water to Flint. You know, he can go. He's 13 years old, and he needs this experience. You know, so you're just having fun. How about that? Is that a good answer?
It's refreshing to witness people coming together to assist others during their time of need. Water donations have poured into my city from around the country and guarantees that people like my best friend Danielle can cook a lead-free meal. So, you cook with bottled water every day? Let's talk about that.
Yes.
How many bottles does it take for you to cook?
I make a lot of rice, So I know for my rice, I'm definitely not gonna use a whole bottle of this. You know, you just kind of know, which is kind of crazy. It's the same way that you would know if you was getting it out the faucet. You've been there, held the pot up there like, okay, that look good. No, that's a little too much. I had to remember, don't drink the water. Don't drink the water, don't drink the water, don't drink the water. So one time I was about to make me some tea, and I filled my tea kettle up with the water in there. I boiled it and everything and still drank it and was halfway through the cup and was like, oh my God, I'm drinking Flint water. Yeah, it was that serious. So now you remember.
So what are you doing for water?
I am using bottled water, and it's a problem a lot of times, but I thank God that there are so many distribution sites around Flint. You can get water, but you can only store up so much water.
One of the guys I called, he's home on leave from the United States Army, and it was heartbreaking for him to come and put this much work in and see this much water and see what we got going on, and it broke him down. He said he never imagined he'd come home and have to do this at home in this country, United States of America, when he had to do it in Afghanistan and Iraq. So this problem needs to get resolved as soon as possible.
We're not a third world country, but we having a third world problem.
Yeah. And we've been here since day one, and we're going to be here to the end.
I serve on the committee, or the Concerned Pastors for Social Actions. And at this particular time, we have what we call hubs. And I have to make sure that those hubs are full of water. This is our hub, so that when FEMA leaves in a few days, we will have some water for our city, because when you can't turn to the government, surely you can turn to the church. Come this way to show you some other places where we can store water. Our gracious governor seen us in this situation and basically done nothing. So we have water in this room right here, which is the loose cases. And you see over there we have gallons of water here for the community.
As information got out, I think as it became very clear that the governor had ignored us, that's when the national news started picking up on it. And then once that had happened, then you started to see the celebrities come in. What's been fascinating to me too is that the real push of celebrities that have come in are all from the hip-hop community. I haven't seen the traditional white celebrities come through.
I moved out to Owasso about a year ago, back in March. I got a job at a plant out here. We have a lot of people from Flint that work there. Quay, Ty, Joe, and Lorenzo, all from Flint, and this one lady named Fanny. I started a water drive because it felt right. A lot of people out here in Owasso, the people are, they're people. They're an older white group. There's not a lot of full-on care about what goes on in Flint. The goal was to get 100 cases. We got 124.
In a nutshell, every household easily goes between 30 and 50 gallons a day. So even if you're looking at a case of water, if you're looking at 30, 50 gallons a day, easily for a household of 4, a case of water, 2 cases of water is not doing anything. It's more than just the pipes that are damaged. It's more than the water that's damaged. Even some of the ground has lead in it. Some people are trying to flee the city for greater quality of living. That's cool. But some people can't leave the city. So the solution for us right now is to talk to individual on an individual basis, find out what individuals need. A lot of these kids that are around here, they don't even have places to go after school. Our goal is to turn the school into a community center, because not only do we have water crisis, we have life crisis around here. Just last year in Flint, we had over 50 murders. Lead being in water, or lead infused in human beings, is known to cause aggression. And if that's the case, you know, it's easy to tie all of the violence in Flint to, you know, the water crisis. And then you got other elements involved, like when General Motors was here. General Motors pulled out, didn't want to use the water in Flint. After they used the Flint people to build their cars for 40, 50 years, then they pulled out and left us with ground that's contaminated. They can't even be used. So if I got little 5-year-old kids that don't even have anywhere to play, don't have after-school activities, By the time they turn 25, what else do you expect? If you raise somebody in the jungle, what you gonna get is animals. We don't want to create animals, we're trying to create doctors and lawyers. But how can I create a doctor if I don't expose them to the hospital unless they're sick?
Obviously, we have an unnatural poverty level in Flint. Our economics are lower than most other cities in the state. And so these are people who don't have the ability to go out and buy filters. These are the people that didn't have the ability to go out and buy bottled water.
Shower filters that they give only work for cold water. They don't work for hot
Well,
water.
that's filters in general. Even the pure filters that they gave out for the tap, you can't run hot water through there. It messes up the mechanics of the filter.
So what the hell are you supposed to do? You
Take cold showers. But who wants to do that?
I ain't taking no damn cold shower. I haven't had a shower since I've been here.
You want to take one?
The irony not to be missed is that this all happens in the middle of the Great Lakes state, the largest body of fresh water in the world, and we can't take care of our own citizens. On top of all of that is the idea that they were charging us for this water at usury rates.
How could they even expect the people to pay for brown water?
My last bill that I paid before I lost my house here in Flint was for 1 month, $325. I have friends who live in New Mexico in the middle of a desert who pay $20 a month for their water. And I was paying $300 and some a month for water I couldn't use. Ultimately, because the school system had been going downhill, we'd taken pay cuts over a series of years. I couldn't keep up on my mortgage, and I could not sell my house because of this water crisis. Personally, I ended up losing my life investment into my home. My wife and I had to move, and that's probably the most minimal effect that I've heard of. You know, I didn't have a child, a small child, who was infected with this lead. I don't have health issues because of the lead, but there are a number of my former students, my friends who still live in the city, who are dealing with all of that. They have to watch filter rates on a weekly basis, make sure that their filters aren't full, they change them out properly. They have to use bottled water for everything. It's insane that in the 21st century, this is happening in the middle of an American city.
I was studying a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, man, really? Flint ain't doing nothing but going through the same thing the Egyptians went through.
Exodus.
When God get mad, he start plaguing things. We going through the same thing, baby. Our water tainted with lead, their water was tainted with blood. Same thing. Ain't nothing new under the sun. You just gotta pay attention to the signs.
That's real.
He ain't gonna show us a bloody lake again, because he know we ain't gonna believe. We people down here, man, get out of here, man. That's just the moon and the way the water reflected in the sun. No, they ain't gonna believe it. How about I put some lead in there? Bet you get your attention in. Bet you get your attention in.
Then all of a sudden, the water started looking muddy. And is that a truck
That's
with water?
UPS.
That's an 18-wheeler. That's a semi-truck.
So what's going on here?
What's going on here is on Tuesdays is our drop-off day. The food bank drops off water. State of Michigan drops off water. And you know, other donors, they drop off water. We got some guys from the neighborhood, our volunteers, to volunteer and take the water into the basement. We're standing here in the hallway of the church right now. All the volunteers are gone, and my niece is doing a documentary on her city, which she was born and raised in. And everybody's gone, and there's a UPS truck full of water. What we do, I don't know.
He can just unload it in the parking lot and leave it.
A lot of times that has happened.
I know.
We have a pretty nice, spacious gym here, but it is now full. We can get maybe a couple of more pallets in here. Everybody is going to all the pods to get water. This is a traffic jam at the Mount Carmel Baptist Church water pod. These are all the cars backed up. Look at this line. People are in a line to get 8 cases of water because today is the day that we may just run out of water, and the government said basically that this is it for us. We're supposed to trust our government. Our government is supposed to take care of us. I can tell you right now, we cannot trust our government. Water is a necessity. Everyone does not have service lines. And if they do have no service lines, the pipes are still dirty. If anybody told you that our water is clean and safe to drink, this right here is proof.